Now, this is part 2 of creating forms in Dreamweaver. And again, if you're not a back-end person, if you're not a PHP writer, then you want to have a friend that does that. But actually getting the form information in the page is very simple, actually, but you do want to talk to your back-end person to ask them what to put in for your form action, your form method, and the name of the various values that should be used in the form. But let's just go right to making the form. And again, all of these files are downloadable at sillybilly.com samples/forms.zip. So here we go. So I have a form it's not ready to go, but I want name, email, sex, interest, state, and comments. Now, I've clicked in a table cell right here, and down here in the quick tag inspector, if I click here, you can see that this is a table, and if I click here, you can see that I've selected this table cell, and TD actually means tabular data. In making a form, especially complex forms that want lots of information, it used to be all sites were all laid out using tables, but this is a prime example of when a table should be used. I mean, it just totally makes sense to stick your stuff in a table if it's a complex form. But do what you will. The important thing is the first thing I'm going to do in creating a form is I'm going to open my insert menu by going Window, Insert, and my insert panel will show up here. And you may not see what I see. Most likely it may be set to structure, and you can add these various structural components. But I'm going to go to form. And then I get some form options showing up in here. And I'm going to say the options most likely you will use the most will be input text showing up right here, text area for comment forms where people will write paragraphs. Of course, the submit button is essential. Then for multiple choice, you will use the radio button, which will show up down here, the checkbox, and the select menu, and these are the ones that we're going to use now. So here we go. I'm going to move this over here. And for name, oh no, the first thing I want to do is I'm just going to go into the code. The most important thing, it's already here, so I'm going to take it out. I'm going to take out the most important thing, which is the form tag. And I'm going to, outside of my table, I'm going to go right up here above my table, and I'm just going to click form. There it is. And it opens my form, it closes my form, and I'm going to cut this, go down below the table, and paste the closing form tag. And again, you want to talk to your PHP person about the name of the form, the method of the form, and fill that in if you don't know how to do that already. That is the most important part, because if we put anything in here and it's not attached to those actions, then the form won't work. But cosmetically, I'll go back into design mode, and the name is going to be a text form. So I'm going to click that one time, and by default, Dreamweaver is going to put this in here, and it's just a label, and right here is providing a label for me. I don't want that. So I'm just going to highlight it because I'm controlling it over here. I made a column just for that. I get rid of it. I can click it here. The name in the properties panel, this is going to be the name of the database, and I'm going to call it your name. Never call anything name. This is the name in the database. It's a reserved word. Name is a reserved word. Never use it. To make this one cosmetic, to make the form field visibly wider, I come down here to size. Just for the heck of it, I'm going to put in 50 and watch it grow. That's how you change the width. Notice it's not pixels, it's not M's. I put in size. This is the width of a letter. It grows. If I want name to be only 10 pixels, not pixels, but 10 letters wide, then I decrease that. I come down. Oh, max length. In our case, I'm going to set that to 10 also. And this is the maximum value or the maximum number of characters that someone can type into that box. And that's very important because there are wonderful people out there on the planet who like to go to your forms and just type in encyclopedias into your form and clog up your emails. So there you go. So there's our name. I'm going to come to email, put in another text box, get rid of the cosmetics here, drop that out, and I'll set this. I'll click on it. The property inspector should give me information about that object. I'll set that to 20. Max length, 20, which is not enough because some emails are much longer than that. I'll call this email. Yes, you can. Email is not a resolved word. I'm good with that. Now for sex, this gets a little strange here. Let's move the properties panel up here. For sex, I think I'm going to use a checkbox. Scroll down some. I could use a checkbox or a radio button. Scroll down a bit more here. So radio button, first I'll click here. Radio button, poof. Radio button, no. We want this to be called male. And I'll click another radio button. And I'll call this one female. There you go. Interest. For that, I'm going to use a checkbox. And I'm going to call this one day. And I'm going to click checkbox again. Highlight this, and I'm going to call this one night. Come down here. For state, I'm going to use this select drop-down menu. I click that. Now this one's a little weird because notice as soon as and notice this is cosmetic. It does nothing to the form. I get rid of that. But if I click on this little doohickey right there, notice for select, I'm going to give it the name of state for the database. And then I go to list values. This is very unique because we didn't have to do this before. For list values, I'm going to type in what shows up on the menu itself, New York, but the value is what is in the database. I just hit tab and it went over to value. I'll hit tab again. I'll type in Ohio and tab that again. The value in the database, just type in Jersey. Jersey, I'll type in the value in the database, and this type in Montana and the value in the database. There you go. I'll click OK. You can see New York showing up here, but if most of your clients are in Ohio and you're just putting in this because you only have 2 clients in New York and 2 clients over there in Montana, well, if I click here, then that will stay there so that, I mean, most people are in Ohio, so you're good to go, except for those 2 people in New York and Montana. All right, now I'm going to go down to comments, and this is a text area box. I'll give it a thing. The cosmetic tag shows up. I'll get rid of that. And I want this to be wider, perhaps. Most comment forms are wider. And it's weird because we set the width of the comments in columns. So I'm going to make that 50 characters wide. And you'll see that thing grow. I'll close the insert box. And to make it taller, the number of rows, maybe I'll put 8 in there and hit return. And I'm going to put in maximum number of characters. I'm only going to let people type 600 characters in there. So now, if I've talked to my PHP person, or I've read the directions to my PHP forms, and for you blessed people that actually know PHP and ASP, and that can put the appropriate values in the form tag, you're good to go. Your form is cosmetically beautiful and ready to roll. Again, Dreamweaver comes through the insert panel. Stuff like date, time, date and local time, all of that, those wonderful things that don't do anything unless they are in the form tag and unless they are connected to some PHP, ASP, or CGI middleware language document.